during the construction process, we always had, even though I know Phil, I wouldn't even bother Phil with some of the stuff. We always had a construction manager who has got eons in the business, 20, 30, 40 years worth of business, who was here on a daily basis. And as things were going on, during the day, you can bring up questions to him at any time. So, a typical job, like, the houses that I've built, you always had a punch list, like you describe at the end, where you're going through and saying, okay, you didn't do this right, you got to do this, you got to do this. I got to tell you, by the end of the job, there was almost nothing. And there were a few things that I would notice, and he would say, look, it's on my list already, we're doing it, So having that knowledgeable construction manager that was there day in, day out, overseeing the subs. So as good as your subs are, they're only as good as the man that's making sure the sub's doing the job right. And he's got really, really professional people. It's like a stainless steel brushed metal finish on the outside of the building, and it looks brand new. And to know that the building underneath it, was built in the 60s makes me feel good. It makes me feel very good that the place looks contemporary. And I know in 5 years, it's still going to look okay. 7 years, whatever. It's something that's going to last. It's not something that was thrown together with some drive-in on the wall and then, how's the thing going to look in 5 years? It's going to last the time. Ford actually helped me with some of the renovation and paid for some of the renovation. But they had certain criteria that had to be met. Well, Phil's firm worked with the architects out in Dearborn, out in, Ford's headquarters out in Michigan, and they were able to totally meet ahead of time, ahead of standard. Each time they would look for something, Phil's firm would have it done like within a day or the same day, that afternoon. And the guy's like, we're not used to this. We're usually waiting 2 weeks for a company to get back to us, and they couldn't believe it. So finally it got to the point where there was such an atmosphere of trust that basically they were just like, do what you got to do. Where at the beginning they're double checking anything. In talking to him after the fact, the people out in Dearborn, the engineers out at Ford, they were like, they don't do this for anybody. So that made me feel pretty good. Number two was that there were several other of these renovations that were going on all over the country in different markets, from San Diego to Texas to the middle of the country. And, we were in the Northeast. And we were the only people to do it in 3 months, where everybody else was 6, 9 months. It just took their builders so long to get things done. In the meantime, we're trying to run a business. Our business is open from 6 in the morning till 8 at night. So, we're trying to keep our business, as profitable and going during this renovation as possible. They did things that blew my mind. They had shifts come in the middle of the night. And when we came in to open up the showroom in the morning, there was very, very little, how should I say, interference with our business day to day, They did things, they worked outside the box in a lot of things that I didn't even ask them to do. They just did because they knew what we do for a living. So as far as the disturbance to my business, it was minimal. They did it in record time. They did it in such record time that, like, when I ordered the signs, the sign manufacturer was so used to things being nowhere near the time that when I needed the signs to be here, he's like, well, your building's not done. I'm like, my building's done. We're waiting. The last thing was the new electronic signage. And they actually sent a guy from Boston down here to see it. And I saw the guy on the cell phone. I was standing next to him going, I'm not kidding you. The place is done. Get the signs here. They couldn't believe it. So they're great. They do things on time. Constantly you have interaction with them to make sure you're happy. The quality of work's been great. Our place just went through a hurricane, as well as, I guess a borderline tropical storm. We're only a few miles. We had no water leakage. All our windows are fine, and a lot of places did have damage. So what impressed me about Phil's firm is that, that there's engineering background, there's architectural background, as well as being builders. So he was able to think a little bit more out of the box as far as getting some things done. We have an older facility that's been here. In some cases, some parts of the facility have been here since the 40s and the 50s. Some parts of the facility have been here since the 60s. And we were able to renovate it into a contemporary look. And, people come in and they think it's a new building. They have no idea that the building's as old as it is here. Phil's firm, Claris Construction, has done 3 projects for us where we expanded service in our write-up area, and we redid our showroom back in the 90s. We expanded our service department. We added 6 service bays to our service department, and we also added, that was part of his forte as well, as he's a Butler builder. So we were able to put a big high building in, which allows us to do a lot of the commercial vehicles. We can put the big buses and the big trucks, the heavy duty trucks up in the air. We were able to do that. And then also, we totally redid the place in the last 2 years again. And so that was the 3rd renovation that Phil's done with our property. And each time it's been, you know, better than the last. I mean, each time they seem to get better at it. You know, doing things ahead of time. You know, as far as the red tape that it comes with all the building codes, as far as, you know, getting things approved through zoning and planning and things like that. They were tremendous with it. Well, you know, Clarice will probably hate me saying it, but each time they came in a little under budget. And I know that can't happen every time, but it was always a good surprise that we came in a little under budget every time. And then there was also some things that came along where I had a little bit of a wish list here and there where I would say, I want to, you know, maybe do this or add this. And we were able to do it and still come in under budget. You know, time, again, was ahead of schedule in some cases. I mean, you know, in borrowing money from the banks many times, like I talked to you about, you know, the signage guys not believing we were done. I mean, the bank people would come down and say, I can't believe you're to that stage already. So,